Hello everyone, welcome back to the Equinix Tech Talk series. Today we will present our session, Building a Sustainable and Efficient Network with BT and Equinix. My name is Wendy Lentink and I will be your host for today. And as always, Equinix appreciates that you take 20 minutes out of your busy schedule to spend with us. Thank you for that. Before we move on to the main part of our presentation, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. We would like to have this webinar as interactive as possible. On your screen, you can see the Q&A box. Ask the speaker a question. Please insert any questions throughout the presentation and we will answer them at the end. You will also find a resources panel where you can download related content. And finally, at the end of the presentation, a short survey will pop up. Thank you for answering that. I'm pleased to introduce to you Sarwar Khan. He's Sustainability Lead at BT, and James McIlvenny. He's Product Marketing Manager, Digital Interconnection at Equinix, and they will take you through our session. Over to you, Sarwar.
Hi, everyone. What is interesting is over the last year, we now have seen more than 3,000 organizations around the world commit to some form of science-based target. What that means is they're effectively looking to reduce their emissions end-to-end. Historically, it used to be the chief sustainability officer or the sustainability team who used to be responsible for delivering sustainability and emissions reduction across their organization. But that's rapidly changing. CIOs and CTOs are starting to play a really important role in accelerating sustainability for their organization by making it much more operational. In 2021, in a survey that was conducted with some of the world's leading CIOs, 0% of the CIOs said sustainability was a top 3 priority for them. Fast forward a couple of years, so here we are in 2023. The same survey was run with the same batch of CIOs, and this time 50% said it's their number 1 priority. So what are some of the key areas that the CIOs are looking to in terms of emission reduction and contribution towards their organization's net zero ambition? Well, the first one is looking at virtualization, potentially moving their workloads and applications from on-prem based data centers to colocation or hybrid cloud type of environments, and even in some cases interconnects into the public cloud environment. The CIOs and CTOs and their wider teams are also tasked at looking at energy efficiency, particularly within their digital infrastructure. With the rise of AI and data traffic expected to grow over the next few years, energy efficiency, particularly with the devices deployed within those infrastructure environments, will become really, really important. And very finally, they're also looking at the prospect of low or no code, and also how do they leverage green software as a way of reducing the impact of IT within their wider organization. Whilst the CIOs have a plan in mind, the biggest challenge that they actually face in acting is the ability to measure. That means baselining where they are today in terms of their carbon footprint, and then being able to track that over time and identify the carbon hotspots for their digital products and services, all the way from the networking and digital infrastructure through to the endpoint devices, which pretty much sit within their broader responsibility. That's why this year at BT, we launched the Digital Carbon Calculator, digital tool which provides IT teams the ability to measure and track and identify the carbon hotspots associated with their digital infrastructure all the way through to their endpoint devices. Now, this is just a summary of what the Digital Carbon Calculator enables for the teams. And this is all about sustainable digital transformation. So measuring the carbon emissions that are coming directly from the IT services used by these organizations. So using the calculator, the IT teams can view the ICT estimated carbon footprint in terms of tons of CO2. It's a completely different metric. They're also able to identify the carbon footprint broken down by the region, potentially the country, as well as the device category. And these are important parameters in helping the teams make more informed choices around digital transformation. The teams are also able to track changes in emissions as they digitally transform their estate. He also covers some of the key partners that we work with, such as Cisco, Meraki, Fortinet, Dell, all the way through to Apple devices, and it's standardized based on the ISO 14040 LCA methodology. This data will also be shared to be compliant with the PACT framework. And we also integrate end-of-service device recycling metrics as well to help organizations drive circularity within the organization to reduce e-waste, but also ultimately contribute towards reducing their overall company emissions. So with that, I'm going to give you a practical demonstration of how the digital carbon calculator works. So as you can see on the screen there, in this demo environment, this customer has 3,619 devices. This is generating roughly 1,219 megawatts hours of energy and contributing to 579 tons of CO2. The team is also able to identify the devices that contribute the carbon footprint and the highest level of energy usage, broken down by the totality, but also by the average usage. This can be split across the key vendors, the key regions, and the regions matter because grid carbon intensity differs depending on where you connect to around the world. And also the categories as well. So some of the core aspects that make up the networking infrastructure into a hybrid or a colocation type of environment, everything from switches to firewalls and to servers. Organizations are also able to view the change in their inventory over time and what that means from a carbon footprinting perspective. So you can see here that since 1st of January 2023, there's been a reduction in the number of devices, the amount of energy, and the tons of CO2. And that can be shown in this graph. And this happens as the organization is digitally transforming. They may very well be moving more towards a software-defined type of infrastructure. And as a result, they don't need as many physical devices across their environment. So they're able to track the impact of this change and identify where they are as of now, and also set out some steps in terms of reducing the remaining carbon emissions over time to contribute towards their organization's net zero goals. So with that, I'm going to hand over to James to talk through how this links into the work we're doing with Equinix and the story around digital infrastructure and the importance of digital infrastructure in helping organizations accelerate to net zero.
As Sarwar was showing there, Equinix, our partners, we recognize that IT and infrastructure teams are taking on a much bigger role when it comes to driving sustainable change in their companies. And with that, we know that there is pressure to quantify the carbon footprint of your digital products and services, and your on-prem network equipment, such as routers and switches, if you have them. And especially so when many companies are focusing on their journey to net zero. What we also wanted to take you through today is not only how Equinix and our partners are providing the tooling to identify where you can become more efficient, but the next step, so what do you do about it? So both BT and Equinix are obviously aligning our businesses to the sustainability commitments that our customers need. BT will help customers avoid 60 million tons of CO2 by 2030 and provides 100% renewable energy through their networks. And Equinix, on the other hand, as you can see in the sort of green section here, is the first data center company in the world to set science-based targets in line with the Paris Agreement on climate change on the way to becoming climate neutral by 2030. And then if we just shift over to the white section on the right here as well, and with the Equinix platform, to add to that, what we have is a platform set up for sustainable digital transformation, really with a solutions framework that you can implement step by step to transform your global network with data center colocation and all the benefits of virtualization, i.e. virtual interconnection and virtual network functions. This scale also that you see on the right here is a kind of indicator as to the level of emissions reduction you can expect with us as you move through the steps. So for example, while everything here, these steps 1 to 4 should have a positive impact, moving from traditional on-prem infrastructure to Equinix colocation in the first step will likely have the highest impact in reducing your overall emissions. Let's take a look at the first step. So to leverage our data center colocation footprint, and this footprint, it has the widest coverage out there with 250 data centers in 71 major locations, 32 countries, 100% renewable energy at most sites, and which has our fabric interconnectivity running through, enabling connections to any major networks, clouds, digital services. As an example of what you get with this, these screenshots are from our Workbench designer tool that Equinix solutions architects use to map out for customers what to do on our platform. So what you see here in the screenshots, this is a customer that is managing 2 on-prem sites with network equipment, and that's the very small gray circles at the top here. And this environment is more energy hungry than a shared virtualized environment. And these smaller blue dots are where their end users are. So as they transform and consolidate by moving from on-prem to Equinix colocation, they get closer to their end users, helping to lower latencies and increasing performance. But crucially also, you get realized and quantifiable efficiencies on your journey to net zero with Equinix colocation. So if we just look at the top right here, you can claim 100% renewables coverage at most colocation sites. You transfer your scope 1 and 2 data center operations emissions to Equinix, and you can claim market-leading power usage effectiveness ratings. And in addition, we recommend that customers schedule a digital strategy briefing with one of our solutions architects in which they will use tools like Workbench to start to really architect your network as part of a wider, efficient hybrid multi-cloud solution. And finally, here on this slide, moving to Equinix colocation also gives you the ability to request a customized green power report from us, which is a renewable energy attestation statement or proof of your sustainability gains. So just staying with this green power report, with the green power report, you will get a certificate and detailed reporting on your colocation sites, including, as you can see here in the bullets, your equipment's electricity usage and scope emissions transferred to Equinix that you can use in your sustainability auditing process. And just to note, these reports are not intended for public consumption, i.e. to be hosted on your company site. The second step to transform your global network sustainably and efficiently after you've deployed in data center colocation is to start leveraging our platform's virtualization options. Our fabric interconnectivity from our data centers allows you to connect virtually to thousands of networks, clouds, digital services, SaaS platforms, moving you further away still from physical network equipment. But this is not just about colocation and interconnection. It's not just a colo and interconnection story. We believe that we have a true platform for building and for optimizing your network, because added to this reach anywhere through our physical data center infrastructure and connectivity, what we give you are really digital services, building blocks that can be deployed quickly on demand. For example, highlighted here, virtual interconnection and virtual network functions for you to consume as a service. So if we go back and look again at that customer that moved from on-prem to Equinix colocation, because of our platform's digital services, building blocks to deploy virtual interconnection and virtual network functions on demand from customer portals, they can start to completely eliminate their network hardware. And this is the third step in the solutions framework to transform your global network. So the screenshot at the bottom is a good demonstration of this, where we have in the red lines our fabric interconnectivity, now connecting sites, various clouds and networks in the right locations. And through our Network Edge product, deploying a virtual firewall and virtual router. And in addition to deploying from portals, we have customers taking the next step and using Equinix APIs today to deliver infrastructure orchestration, automation. And this is something you can do also using integrated DevOps and infrastructure as code tools such as Terraform and Ansible. So using these ways to deploy with virtual options on our platform obviously gives you a great deal of flexibility too. So you can respond to changing needs and scale up or scale down quickly. Taking everything into account, from quantifying the carbon footprints of your on-prem network equipment to moving from this on-prem to data center colocation and leveraging virtualization to start to eliminate your network hardware. We wanted to end with an example of a network solutions use case that you can implement on the Equinix platform and the real value you can get from it today. Summing up, the combination of our key functionalities in the red bar of the diagram here on the slide, virtual options, cloud access, on-demand fast connectivity, and a huge number of partners and vendors you can use, make our platform an ideal place in which to deploy your SD-WAN with automated virtual network functions and to execute more broadly on your SD-WAN strategy. And if you look at the right, sort of black section, customers who are doing this today are typically seeing the results here on the right. A repeatable design that can be scaled up or scaled down globally, 60% saved on what you were previously internally managing, reduce latency and reduce network costs, and something that really contributes to emissions reduction on your overall journey to net zero. Okay, so thanks very much. That's the end of the sort of presentation. So we're at the end of this Tech Talk presentation. Just a final note from me. If you would like to know more about step-by-step sustainable and efficient transformation of your network on our platform and using these practical network solutions use cases, you can contact our Equinix Solutions architects or your account manager for more information.
Great. Thank you, Sarwar and James, for your great presentation. Very interesting. And during the presentation, we had a few questions coming in, so I suggest to take those now. And the first question is from Mark. Taking the strategic longer-term view, what should we be preparing for our sustainability? I think it's a question for you, James.
Yeah, sure. And it's going to be a little bit of a summary of what I presented today. The key word is the sort of strategic element there, or sort of thinking strategically. So I think as a company, you need to think strategically and we'll work with a strategic partner like Equinix and BT and move to a really flexible infrastructure platform that has a lot of options for you to help, align on sustainability and reduce your emissions sort of step by step. So, for example, like what I showed today, moving from on-prem to data center colocation, and then bit by bit starting to virtualize your infrastructure in this kind of phased way. And the benefits also of like moving to a flexible infrastructure platform are that you can also you can respond more quickly to various challenges, including whatever's going to happen with increasing sustainability regulation and initiatives. So that's really important as well, I think.
Thank you, James. And another question came in from Arturo. How can a digital carbon calculator be used to help customers using Equinix services?
Very good question. So the digital carbon calculator can be used to set the baseline first. So for many organizations who have their infrastructure as is, it could be very much within their private data center environment. We're able to identify all of the devices that sit within their inventory in that environment, and then allocate the tons of CO2. And then as they move across to Equinix services or Equinix infrastructure, Equinix colocation services, they're able to change that inventory on the digital carbon calculator to be able to track and understand the impact of the emissions, but also estimated energy impact as well. And then that can help teams make more informed decisions, particularly solution architects, to identify further ways of continuously optimizing. So some of the things that James talked about there in his presentation, could the data provided by the digital carbon calculator extend to the next level beyond that? So that's why we see the more obvious case of and use of the digital carbon calculator.
Great. Thanks, Sarwar. Well, it looks like we are already approaching the end of the 20 minutes, so we have to close this session now. In case your question is not answered yet, we will answer it offline. We will reach out to you. So thank you again for your time today. I hope you found this session insightful. Tomorrow you will receive an email with a link to the recording. Would you like to watch it again? Or you can also forward it to your colleagues. Once again, thank you for attending and have a great day.